Today is August 29th, 2023, and today what's on my mind is to go over a brief summary of the history of the Ukraine-Russian conflict. I've seen things online on YouTube, and there's lots of kind of factual based narratives where, you know, someone has done their research and they lay forth all the facts that are involved in the Russo-Ukraine conflict, and that's nice and that's informative, but unfortunately history doesn't tell you much, only through facts. I did study history in university, and so I look for more of the theoretical crux that glues the pieces of the facts together so you have a conceptual understanding of what's going on, and that's something that can be exercised and that can be translated into a more meaningful understanding, and it can be applied, etc. So in order to understand the Ukraine-Russian conflict, first you start at World War II and you look at the beginning of the Cold War, where the world was divided into three groups. Number 1, 2, and 3. As simple as that. United States was the superpower. There had never been that concept before on a global level. Number 2 was Russia. Number 3 was the rest of the world. Hence the term Third World. Okay, so the Cold War endured from the end of World War II up until the fall of the Berlin Wall in, 88, 89? And, you know, that's a huge history in and of itself, but just to document this story, when the Cold War ended and with the fall of the Berlin Wall, all of the Eastern Bloc countries that were dominated and part of the Russian Federation, such as Ukraine, all those countries gained independence, and that was a huge victory for the democratic Western nations that had been fighting this Cold War and put so much time and money into it. But also there's a connection between the World War II also, that it's something that's very important to understand. So after World War II ended, what happened was we went into countries like Germany, devastated nations that we were warring against, and we didn't just let them fall so harshly. What we did was we went in there with the Marshall Plan, and we funded them unlimitedly. We gave them tons and tons of money to rebuild themselves. And that was crucial, because what that did was it brought our enemies onto the same global platform as us, the Western free-thinking democratic countries of the world. So we gave them a chance to not only rebuild, but also to be our friends and to participate in a booming world economy. So now you fast forward to the fall of the Berlin Wall, and these Soviet bloc countries that are newly liberated and gaining independence. When the Berlin Wall fell, the United States basically did nothing for Ukraine. And we didn't go in there and give them the Marshall Plan and unlimited funds to rebuild, which was a huge mistake. We had been pouring money into the Cold War. But then after we succeeded in the strategic conflict, we didn't go in there and try to bring these broken nations online to be world contributing countries, which was a huge mistake. Okay, so that is really important to understand to see how it got to where we are now. So there was basically NATO, and the opposite of NATO was the Warsaw Pact. That's during the Cold War. So NATO, or Western allied free-thinking countries, we also It's worth mentioning the European Union, which countries like Ukraine should have been invited to with open arms. And NATO should have been inviting Ukraine and those Eastern Bloc countries with open arms and bringing them in to be our friends. But we didn't. We just said, fend for yourselves, and they languished and languished and languished. And so also Russia in general languished, and instead of becoming a more free country, they just reorganized into another type of warlord, very Soviet mentality. Went right back to the good old thing that works for them best. It's just harsh dictator autocratism. And we let them do that because they had no other choice. They needed someone like Vladimir Putin, basically. He was actually the answer to stability in Russia. And so the Ukraine was we didn't take advantage of what we should have, and I think we were even morally obligated to lift Ukraine and or any of those Western Eastern Bloc countries that were willing to cooperate with us. We were not there to help them out. Putin came into Ukraine because he saw them as easy pickings. And he thought that because he had saved Russia, that he's going to save all of the Russo ethnic group. Another point to mention is that when you have a frontier, okay, a border that separates people of the same ethnicity and language, history shows infallibly, it shows that that frontier will be erased eventually. And that is what exists between Ukraine and Russia. In fact, Ukraine is seen by many as the heart of the Russian culture and people. So that's another variable to consider when you think of the Russian-Ukrainian conflict. And it just gives you more to work with, I think, with this insight that I'm putting forth here. And I hope people, number one, can enjoy and understand what I'm expressing here and appreciate that. And I think that I would love to see some replies from the viewers in the comment section, and keep this a running conversation that we all can learn more for. Whatever I left out, I would love to hear responses. Cheers.